Velthar stared at the data pad in his six-fingered hands and felt his stomach sacs tighten with excitement. His first real assignment. After 3 cycles of training at the Kaltari Diplomatic Academy, after endless simulations and boring desk work, he finally had a field mission. Observer duty, his supervisor had said that morning. Simple documentation. The Hevrock Confederation is conducting a suppression action against a human colony. Treaty violation. Standard procedure. You'll record their combat capabilities for our archives. Humans. Velthar had heard of them, of course. Everyone had. The newcomers. They had joined the Galactic Council only 23 cycles ago. Their ships were crude. Their technology was primitive. Their worlds were few and scattered at the edge of known space. The assignment seemed perfect for a junior observer. Low risk, simple documentation, nothing dangerous. Velthar looked out the viewport of his small observation vessel. Below him, the planet AR-447 rotated slowly. It was a frontier world, rocky, cold. The humans had built a mining colony there 5 cycles ago. 3,000 humans, maybe 4,000. They dug valuable minerals from the ground and sent them back to their home worlds. But they had violated the mining treaties. They had taken more than their quota. The Galactic Council had reviewed the case and approved a suppression action. The Hevrock Confederation had volunteered immediately. The Hevrock. Velthar shuddered slightly. They were insectoid warriors, tall, chitinous, with 4 arms and mandibles that could crush metal. Their military tradition stretched back thousands of cycles. They believed in honor, in glory, in the art of war. They had put down dozens of rebellions across the galaxy. They were efficient, they were proud, and they were here. Velthar adjusted his observation equipment and watched the Hevrock fleet emerge from faster-than-light travel. 47 warships. They appeared in formation, perfectly spaced, their hulls gleaming under the system's distant sun. Each ship was a work of art, curved edges, weapon ports that looked like the opened wings of predatory insects. They moved with precision and grace. The fleet commander was Threxil. Velthar had read his file. 200 successful campaigns, never defeated. The Hevrock military called him the Unbreakable. Velthar began recording. His equipment captured everything. Ship movements, energy signatures, communication channels. This was his job. Watch, record, document, stay neutral. The human colony had 6 defensive ships. Velthar counted them on his sensors. 6 against 47. The humans called them frigates. They were small, blocky. They looked like cargo ships that someone had attached guns to. Nothing elegant, nothing impressive. Velthar felt a small amount of pity for the humans. This would be over quickly. Maybe they would surrender without a fight. That would be best for everyone. He tuned into the communication channels. The Hevrock were broadcasting on all frequencies. Human colony AR-447, Threxil's voice was deep and resonant. You have violated the Treaty of Shared Resources. You have taken more than your allotted share. The Galactic Council has authorized your suppression. Power down your vessels. Surrender your mining operations. Accept Council oversight. Do this, and no harm will come to your people. There was a long silence. Velthar waited. He had seen this before in training simulations. Usually the smaller force surrendered. It was logical. It was smart. Then a human voice came over the channel. It was calm. Too calm. Hevrock Fleet, this is Captain Jinwoo of the human frigate Relentless. We have reviewed your demands. Our answer is negative. Come and try. Velthar blinked his large eyes in surprise. Negative? They were refusing? On the command channel, he heard Threxil make a sound that might have been amusement. Brave words from primitives. Warriors, prepare for engagement. Remember the honor of Hevrock. We will show these newcomers the price of defiance. The Hevrock fleet began to move. Their formation was beautiful. 3 waves. The first wave would absorb fire. The second wave would flank. The third wave would deliver the killing blow. It was a classic Hevrock maneuver. Velthar had studied it in the academy. It had worked hundreds of times across hundreds of battles. The human ships did not run. They did not form a defensive position. Instead, they spread out and began moving forward, toward the Hevrock fleet. Velthar leaned closer to his displays. That was unusual. 6 ships charging 47? It made no tactical sense. Perhaps the humans did not understand modern warfare. Perhaps their military training was as primitive as their technology. He checked the time. He noted it in his log. The battle would begin in moments. He expected it to last maybe an hour, maybe less. Then he would document the surrender, file his report, return to the academy. But something nagged at him. The captain's voice, Jinwoo. There had been no fear in it, no hesitation, just a calm certainty. "Come and try," he had said. Velthar watched the 6 human frigates accelerate. They were moving fast, faster than he expected. Their engines burned bright in the darkness of space. The Hevrock first wave opened fire. Energy weapons lit up the void, plasma bolts that could melt through hull armor. The Hevrock were not trying to disable. They were trying to destroy. This was a lesson. This was punishment. The human ships twisted. They moved sideways. They dove and climbed in patterns that seemed random, but were not random at all. The plasma bolts missed. Almost all of them missed. Velthar's supervisor had told him humans were primitive. But these ships moved like dancers, like they knew exactly where every shot would be before it was fired. Then the human ships fired back. They did not use energy weapons. They used kinetics. Metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails. Primitive, crude, ancient technology. But the accuracy was perfect. The first Hevrock ship exploded, then the second, then the third. Velthar stared at his displays in shock. 3 Hevrock warships, gone, in seconds. This was not what was supposed to happen. He checked his recordings. He replayed the shots. Each human projectile had struck the exact same place on each Hevrock ship, a weak point in the armor. A place where the hull met the engine core. That required computers, very good computers, and very good targeting systems. The human ships were not primitive. Velthar began to feel cold. He activated all his recording systems. Suddenly, he realized his simple assignment had become something else entirely. He was not watching a suppression action. He was watching something the galaxy had never seen before. He recorded everything, and he hoped his supervisor would believe what he was about to witness. The battle was not going as anyone expected. Velthar watched his screens with growing horror as 3 more Hevrock ships burst into flames and debris. 6 ships destroyed in the first 5 minutes. The Hevrock had never lost 6 ships in 5 minutes, not in any battle in their recorded history. Commander Threxziel's voice came over the command channel. He no longer sounded amused, he sounded angry. "All wings, engage evasive pattern 7. Focus fire on the lead human vessel. Concentrate your fire." 20 Hevrock ships turned their weapons on the human frigate Relentless. 20 streams of plasma bolts filled the space where the ship had been. But Captain Jinwoo's ship was not there anymore. It had moved. It had rolled along its axis and dove below the firing line in one smooth motion. And while the Hevrock ships were focused on the Relentless, the other 5 human frigates attacked from different angles. More explosions. More debris. The Hevrock were dying, and they did not understand how. Velthar pulled up the tactical data. He tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The human ships were not faster than the Hevrock ships. They were not more powerful, but they moved like they could see the future. Every time the Hevrock fired, the humans were somewhere else. Every time the Hevrock tried to flank, the humans had already moved to counter. It was like watching a predator toy with prey. No, Velthar corrected himself. It was like watching 6 predators coordinate to bring down a herd. He intercepted more human communications. The humans were talking to each other constantly, sharing data, adjusting positions. Their communication was fast and efficient. "Sora here," a female voice said. "I have firing solutions on targets 12 through 18. Jinwoo, if you can pull them left, I can take the shot." "Copy that," Captain Jinwoo replied, "pulling left in 3, 2, 1. The Relentless rolled hard to port. 8 HFY ships followed, trying to track the movement. Their formation broke slightly as they maneuvered. "Firing now," Sora said. Velthar watched another human frigate fire. 3 shots. 3 HFY ships exploded. Sora had aimed for their power cores. Each shot hit perfectly. The ships did not just get damaged, they were annihilated. Lieutenant Sora. Velthar made a note of the name. He would need to include her in his report. She was the tactical officer. She was coordinating targeting for at least 3 of the human ships. 15 HFY vessels destroyed now, in less than 20 minutes. Threxil was shouting orders. His calm had broken. "Reform! Defensive formation! Shields to maximum!" But the humans did not let them reform. The 6 frigates moved like sharks. They circled the HFY fleet. They struck from unexpected angles. They targeted the ships that were trying to organize the others. They were not just fighting. They were hunting. Velthar noticed something else. Something that made his skin crawl. The humans were not aiming for quick kills. Not always. Some of the shots hit engines, but left life support intact. Some hit weapons, but left the crew alive. The humans were leaving damaged ships floating in space. Ships full of wounded HFY warriors. And they were broadcasting the screams. Every HFY distress call was being intercepted and rebroadcast on all military channels. The other HFY could hear their brothers dying, slowly, in pain. This was psychological warfare. This was terror tactics. Velthar had studied military history at the academy. He knew the theory, but he had never seen it practiced. Not like this. The HFY believed in honor, in quick deaths, in glorious combat. The humans were showing them that honor meant nothing, that glory was a fantasy. The humans were teaching them fear. Another voice came over the human channel, male, gruff. "Doyun to all marine units. We're seeing HFY landing craft heading to the surface. Looks like they're going to try ground assault. Good. Let them come." Sergeant Doyun. Velthar noted the name. Marine Commander. Ground Forces. There was laughter in the background of Doyun's transmission. The human soldiers were laughing. They were enjoying this. Velthar felt sick. The Kaltari were a peaceful species. They avoided violence. They believed in diplomacy. Velthar had never seen death before today. Now he had watched dozens of ships explode. Thousands of HFY warriors had died in the past 25 minutes, and the humans were laughing. More HFY ships fell. The human frigates were relentless. They never stopped moving. They never made a mistake. Their coordination was perfect. It was like watching one mind control 6 bodies. Velthar pulled up human data files. He wanted to understand. What made them so effective? Where had they learned this? His computer provided information. Humans had been in space for only 70 cycles. Before that, they had been confined to one world, Earth, their home planet. But on that one world, they had fought wars. Constant wars. Wars that had killed millions of their own kind. Wars with names like World War I and World War II. Wars that had lasted years, decades, centuries. Velthar read the descriptions with growing dread. Humans had invented weapons specifically to kill other humans. Bombs, missiles, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons. They had burned entire cities. They had poisoned their own air. They had killed each other in numbers that made this battle look like a small skirmish. And they had learned from it. Each war had taught them lessons. They had developed tactics, strategies, doctrines. They had created something they called military academies. where they taught their young how to kill more efficiently. The HFY had a proud military tradition, but humans had been at war with themselves for 10,000 cycles. They had been perfecting the art of death since before they had discovered fire. On his screen, another 5 HFY ships exploded. 25 vessels destroyed now, more than half the fleet. Threxel's voice came over the channel one more time. It was different now. The pride was gone. The confidence was gone. All ships, retreat to the planet's surface. I repeat, retreat to surface. We will regroup and engage the humans on the ground. The remaining HFY ships broke formation and ran. They dove toward the planet, their engines burning at maximum. They were fleeing. The unbreakable HFY were running away. The human ships did not pursue. They held their position in orbit. Captain Jinwoo's voice was calm again. Let them go. Sora, what's our ammunition status? 60% remaining, Captain. We can handle a ground support role if needed. Good. Hold position. Monitor HFY movements. If they try to leave the planet, we'll finish this. Velthar recorded everything. His hands were shaking. In 30 minutes, 6 primitive human frigates had destroyed 25 advanced HFY warships. The greatest military force in the known galaxy had been routed by newcomers with crude kinetic weapons. And now the battle was moving to the ground. 12,000 HFY warriors were landing on the planet. The human colony had maybe 800 soldiers, maybe less. The numbers favored the HFY. Surely on the ground things would be different. Surely the HFY could regain their honor in close combat. But Velthar remembered the laughter in Sergeant Doyen's voice. He remembered the way the humans had hunted the HFY ships. He remembered the fear he had heard in Threxel's final transmission. And he realized the HFY had no idea what was waiting for them on that planet. Velthar adjusted his sensors to monitor the ground battle. He had been assigned to observe humans in combat. He had thought it would be a simple documentation mission. Instead, he was watching the HFY Confederation learn why humans had survived 10,000 cycles of war against themselves. He was watching a massacre unfold, and it had only just begun. The HFY landing craft descended through AR-447's atmosphere like falling stars. Velthar counted them from his observation post. 43 dropships, each carrying approximately 300 warriors. 12,000 HFY soldiers would soon be on the ground. The human colony had 3,400 civilians. Velthar had pulled the population records. Miners, engineers, families. The human military presence was small, 800 Marines, maybe 50 pilots, a handful of support staff. On paper, the HFY had overwhelming numbers. 15 HFY for every 1 human soldier, and the HFY were warriors, bred for combat. Each one stood over 2 meters tall with 4 arms, natural armor plating, and mandibles that could bite through steel. Surely this is where the tide would turn. Surely the HFY would regain their pride. Velthar watched the human colony through his sensors. The civilians were evacuating, efficient, calm. They moved into underground bunkers that had been prepared in advance. The humans had planned for this. They had built shelters deep in the rock, places where orbital bombardment could not reach. The Marines did not evacuate. They spread out across the colony's perimeter. 800 soldiers against 12,000. They should have been terrified. They should have been preparing to surrender. Instead, they were setting up positions, checking weapons, talking quietly to each other. Velthar tuned into the human military channel. He heard a woman's voice, calm, professional. All units, this is Commander Tajin. The HFY are landing in sectors 3, 7, and 12. We'll let them establish their positions. Do not engage until they begin their advance. Remember your training. Fight smart. Fight dirty. Make every shot count. Commander Tajin, the Marine leader, a woman. Velthar noted this. Among the HFY, females rarely fought. Among humans, it seemed gender made no difference. The HFY dropships landed. Warriors poured out. They formed up in perfect ranks. Threxil was with them. Velthar could see him on the visual feeds. The commander stood at the front of his forces, his forearms raised, his mandibles clicking commands. "Warriors of Hevrock!" His voice boomed across the communication channels. "We have been bloodied in space, but we will find honor on the ground. These humans number less than 1,000. We are 12,000 strong. We will sweep over them like a tide. We will reclaim our glory. For Hevrock, for honor!" The warriors responded with a deafening war cry. They began to march, 3 columns, perfect formation, shields up, weapons ready. This was what the Hevrock did best: direct assault, overwhelming force. They would crash into the human positions like a hammer and break them. Velthar watched the humans. They were not forming defensive lines. They were not building barricades. Instead, they were disappearing. One by one, the marine positions went dark. The soldiers were moving, falling back, leaving their posts empty. Were they retreating? Were they abandoning the colony? The Hevrock advanced. Their formations were beautiful, disciplined, each warrior in perfect step with the others. They moved across the open ground toward the colony buildings. They expected the humans to meet them in battle. They expected resistance. They found nothing. The colony appeared abandoned. The Hevrock reached the outer buildings. They entered cautiously. Their sensors swept for enemies. Nothing. No humans. No defenders. Threxil's voice crackled with confusion. "Where are they? Find them! They cannot have vanished." Then the first explosion happened. A Hevrock squad entered a storage building. The entire structure erupted in flames. 30 warriors died instantly. The building had been rigged with explosives. Velthar saw it clearly on his sensors. The humans had planted bombs. They had waited for the Hevrock to enter. Then they had triggered them remotely. More explosions followed. Streets that seemed empty suddenly detonated. Buildings collapsed. Hevrock warriors died in clusters. The humans had turned the entire colony into a trap. Velthar heard panic in the Hevrock communications. "We're taking fire! Source unknown! Squad 7 is down! We cannot see the enemy! They're in the walls! They're everywhere and nowhere!" But the humans were not everywhere. Velthar could track them on his sensors. They were moving in small groups, 2 or 3 soldiers at a time. They would appear in a high window, fire a few shots, disappear before the Hevrock could respond. Then they would appear somewhere else entirely. The Hevrock tried to charge these positions, but when they reached the buildings, the humans were already gone. And more explosions would greet them. Velthar heard a new voice on the human channel. Female, young, calm. "Nari to Taijin. I have eyes on the Hevrock commander. Range 2,000 meters. Wind is negligible. Permission to engage?" "Granted," Commander Taijin responded. "Take the shot." Velthar quickly found Nari on his sensors. She was on a ridge 3 kilometers from the colony, alone. She had a long rifle, a sniper. She was lying prone, perfectly still. He watched her fire. 1 shot. The projectile traveled faster than sound. It crossed 2,000 meters in less than 3 seconds. The shot hit one of Threxil's bodyguards. The warrior's head exploded. The Hevrock commander dove for cover, shouting orders. Nari fired again. Another bodyguard fell, then another. She was picking them off one by one, from 2,000 meters away. The Hevrock could not even see where the shots were coming from. "Nari, you're making them nervous," someone said on the human channel. There was laughter in the voice. "That's the idea," Nari replied. She fired again. The Hevrock formation broke. Warriors scattered, looking for cover. The perfect discipline vanished. They were afraid. They were being killed by an enemy they could not see, could not fight, could not even find. Velthar checked the casualty counts. In the first 30 minutes of ground combat, the Hevrock had lost over 2,000 warriors. The humans had lost no one, not a single casualty. This was not a battle. This was an ambush, a slaughter. He listened to the human communications. They were chatting, joking. Sergeant Doyen's voice came over the channel. Squad 4. Nice work on that ambush in Sector 7. Yuna, I heard you got 12 with 1 grenade, a female voice responded. 14, sir. They were bunched up. Outstanding. Buy you a beer when this is over. I'll hold you to that. They were laughing. They were counting their kills like it was a game. Like they were not fighting for their lives against an overwhelming enemy force. Velthar realized why. To the Hevrock, this was a battle for honor and glory. To the humans, this was just work. This was what they did. This was what they had always done. Commander Tajin's voice cut through the chatter. All units, the Hevrock are trying to regroup in Sector 9. Let's not give them the chance. Squads 2 through 6, flank from the north. Squads 7 through 10, hit them from the south. Air support, I need cover fire on the western approach. Copy that, Commander. Captain Jinwoo's voice came from orbit. Relentless standing by. The human frigates in orbit fired. Not at the Hevrock directly. They fired at the ground around the Hevrock positions, precision strikes that threw up dirt and debris. That created smoke and confusion. That made it impossible for the Hevrock to see. And in that confusion, the human Marines attacked. Velthar watched through his sensors as the humans moved like ghosts. They appeared from the smoke, fired, disappeared. The Hevrock could not track them, could not target them, could not fight back effectively. The humans were using everything as a weapon. The terrain, the weather, the darkness, even the Hevrock's own tactical doctrines against them. The Hevrock believed in honor, in facing your enemy directly. The humans believed in winning, in surviving, in protecting their people by any means necessary. Hours passed. The sun set on AR-447. The darkness came. The Hevrock had night vision equipment. It did not matter. The humans fought better in the dark. They moved through the shadows like they were born to them. Velthar pulled up Earth data again. He found information about human evolution. Humans were persistence hunters. They tracked prey for days, weeks. They outlasted everything. They were patient, relentless. They never gave up. And more than that, they were social hunters, pack hunters. They coordinated, communicated, worked together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. For millions of years, humans had hunted things that could kill them individually. So they learned to hunt in groups, to share information, to act as one. The Hevrock were individual warriors who happened to fight together. The humans were a single organism with 800 bodies. By midnight, the Hevrock had lost 6,000 warriors, half their force. They were no longer advancing. They were not even defending. They were just trying to survive, and the humans had still not lost a single soldier. Velthar recorded everything. His simple observation mission had become something else entirely. He was documenting the end of Hevrock military supremacy. He was watching the moment when the galaxy learned that humanity was not primitive. They were not weak. They were apex predators who had spent 10,000 years learning to kill each other. And now, they were applying those lessons to the stars. The second day of ground combat began with silence. The Hevrock had stopped advancing. They had pulled back to 3 defensive positions and were waiting for daylight, waiting for reinforcements that would never come, waiting for anything that might save them. Velthar had not slept. He could not sleep. He had spent the night watching the battle, watching the Hevrock die, watching the humans hunt. Now, in the morning light, he received an unexpected message. It came on a diplomatic channel, from the human colony. Observer Velthar, this is Colony Administrator Hyun. I understand you are monitoring this conflict. I am extending an invitation to visit the colony. We have nothing to hide. You are welcome to observe our operations directly and ask questions. A shuttle will collect you if you accept. Velthar stared at the message. The humans were inviting him down, in the middle of a battle. Why? He accepted. He had to know. He had to understand what he was witnessing. The shuttle arrived within an hour. It was unarmed, a simple transport. It brought him to the colony's main administration building. The structure was damaged but standing. Scorch marks covered the walls. But inside, everything was calm, organized. Hyun met him at the entrance. He was a middle-aged human male, short dark hair, tired eyes. He wore civilian clothes, not military uniform. He extended his hand in the human greeting gesture. Velthar awkwardly shook it with two of his fingers. "Thank you for coming," Hyun said. His voice was kind. "I imagine you have questions. Come, I will show you what we are." He led Velthar through the colony. People were working, repairing damage, treating wounded. Velthar realized there were wounded. A few dozen humans with injuries. Minor ones, burns, cuts, broken bones, nothing fatal. "We have taken casualties," Hyun explained. 37 injured, none dead. We have been fortunate, or prepared, perhaps both. They entered a medical facility. A woman in a white coat was treating a human soldier. The soldier had a burn on his arm. The doctor worked carefully, cleaning the wound, applying synthetic skin. "This is Dr. Hana," Hyun said. "She leads our medical team." Hana looked up and nodded at Velthar. "Welcome, observer. Excuse me for not shaking hands. I am sterile." She gestured at her gloved hands. Velthar watched her work. She was gentle with the wounded soldier, careful, precise. The same hands that could probably fire a weapon were now healing. "I do not understand," Velthar said quietly. "Your people are so skilled at violence, so efficient at death, but also this, healing, care. How can both exist?" Hyun smiled sadly. "Because we are human. We know the cost of violence. We know how much it hurts. So when we must fight, we fight to end it quickly, and when it is over, we heal, both ourselves and our enemies." He led Velthar deeper into the colony, to the military command center. Commander Taejin was there. She was younger than Velthar expected, maybe 30 Earth years. She stood over a holographic display showing the battlefield. Her Marines were positioned around the remaining Hevrock forces. "Administrator," she said, nodding to Hyun. Then she looked at Velthar. "Observer, I am told you wish to understand us." "Yes," Velthar said. "I have watched your forces. You fight like nothing I have ever seen. The Hevrock are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. But you destroyed them. How?" Taejin gestured to the display. "Because we are not warriors. We are soldiers. There is a difference." "I do not understand the difference. Warriors fight for glory, for honor, for personal achievement. Soldiers fight to complete a mission, to protect their people, to win. Warriors care about how they fight. Soldiers care about the outcome." She zoomed the display in on a Hevrock position. "The Hevrock expected us to meet them in honorable combat, to stand and fight, to match strength against strength. But we do not care about honor. We care about our families, our friends, the civilians sheltering in the bunkers below us. So we fight smart. We use every advantage. We do whatever it takes to keep our people safe." Velthar thought about this. "But your tactics, the ambushes, the traps, the psychological warfare, where did you learn these things?" Taejin's expression grew dark. "From each other. Humans have been fighting humans for 10,000 years. We have tried every possible way to kill our own kind. Guns, bombs, poison, fire. We have fought in forests, in deserts, in cities, in space, every terrain, every condition, and we learned from every war." She pulled up a data file. Historical images appeared on the display. Ancient battles, primitive weapons, then more modern wars, advanced technology, cities in ruins, millions of casualties. "We are not proud of this history," Taejin continued. "We killed millions of our own people. We nearly destroyed our own world. But we learned. We learned that war is not about glory. It is about survival. It is about protecting what you love. And we learned to be very, very good at it. Another voice spoke from across the room. A woman in an intelligence uniform. Commander, the HFY are attempting to communicate. They are asking for terms. Tae-jin nodded. Patch them through. Threxil's voice filled the command center. He sounded broken, defeated. Human Commander, this is Threxil. I request negotiation. My forces are surrounded. We cannot win. I ask for terms of surrender. There was shame in his voice. The unbreakable commander was broken. Tae-jin's expression softened. Commander Threxil, your surrender is accepted. Order your warriors to power down their weapons and remain in position. We will provide medical care for your wounded and proper treatment for your prisoners. You have my word. Your word? Threxil sounded surprised. After what we tried to do? After we attacked your colony? You were following orders from the Galactic Council, Tae-jin said. You were doing what you believed was right. We can respect that even if we disagree. There has been enough death. Let us end this without more bloodshed. There was a long pause. Then Threxil spoke again, his voice quiet. You are unlike any enemy I have ever faced. We expected primitives. We found something we did not understand. I accept your terms. My warriors will stand down. The transmission ended. Tae-jin looked at Velthar. Do you see now? We fight viciously when we must, but we do not enjoy killing. We do it because sometimes there is no other choice. And when the choice is between our people's safety and the enemy's life, we choose our people every time. That is what makes us human. Hyun spoke quietly. Velthar, I want you to understand something. Earth is what we call a death world. Our planet tried to kill us every day. Predators hunted us. Diseases ravaged us. Natural disasters destroyed our homes. For millions of years we were prey. We were weak. We should have gone extinct. He paused, looking at the display showing the surrendering HFY forces. But we did not go extinct. We survived. We learned to make tools, to work together, to hunt the things that hunted us. We became the apex predators of our world, not because we were stronger or faster, but because we were smarter, more adaptable, more relentless. And when we reached the stars, Tae-jin added, we brought those lessons with us. We do not want war. We want peace. We want to trade, to learn, to cooperate with other species. But if someone threatens us, if someone tries to harm our people, then they learn what we learned long ago on Earth. What is that? Velthar asked. That humans do not give up. That we will use every tool, every tactic, every advantage to protect our own. That we would rather be kind, but we can be cruel if we must. That we prefer peace, but we are exceptional at violence. Velthar looked at the casualty numbers on the display. 8,900 HFY dead, 3,100 surrendering, 37 humans injured, 0 dead. It was not a battle. It was an object lesson, a demonstration of what happens when you attack humanity. I must include all of this in my report, Velthar said. The Galactic Council must know. We know, Hyun said. That is why I invited you down. We want the galaxy to understand. We are not a threat to peaceful species, but we will defend ourselves, absolutely, without mercy if necessary. Velthar nodded slowly. He understood now. The humans were not monsters. They were not war-loving primitives. They were a species that had learned the hardest lessons of survival and had decided that the best defense was to be so proficient at violence that no one would dare attack them. It was brilliant. It was terrifying. And it was effective. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity truly was, and Velthar would be the one to teach them. Velthar spent 3 days in the human colony. 3 days watching the aftermath of the battle. 3 days trying to understand what he had witnessed. The humans treated the Hevrock prisoners with respect. Dr. Hana and her medical team worked around the clock to save wounded Hevrock warriors. The same humans who had killed 8,000 Hevrock were now desperately trying to save the survivors. Velthar watched Hana operate on a Hevrock warrior who had lost 2 of his 4 arms. She worked for 6 hours straight, rebuilding the damaged tissue, sealing the wounds, fighting to preserve what remained. When the warrior woke, he looked at her with confusion. "Why?" the Hevrock asked in broken standard language. "Why save enemy?" Hana looked tired. "Because the fighting is over. You are not my enemy anymore. You are my patient, and I took an oath to heal, not to harm." The warrior stared at her. "I do not understand your species." "Most do not," Hana said with a small smile. "We barely understand ourselves." Velthar recorded everything. Every conversation, every action, every detail. On the 4th day, he requested a final interview with Captain Jinwoo. They met on the bridge of the Relentless. The frigate was still in orbit, still watching for any threat. Jinwoo stood by a viewport, looking down at the planet. "You wanted to speak with me, observer?" Jinwoo asked. "Yes," Velthar said. "I need to understand something. Your forces were outnumbered, outgunned. By all military doctrine, you should have lost. But you did not just win. You achieved total victory with almost no casualties. How?" Jinwoo turned to face him. "Because we understood something the Hevrock did not. War is not about strength. It is about will. It is about who wants it more, who is willing to do more, who is willing to sacrifice more. But you did not sacrifice. Your people survived. Because we were willing to sacrifice," Jinwoo corrected. "Every Marine down there knew they might die. They were prepared for it. They had made peace with it. But they were also determined that if they died, it would matter. That their deaths would protect the civilians. That is what makes human soldiers dangerous. We fight like we have nothing to lose because we have already accepted the loss." Velthar thought about this. The Hevrock fight for honor. You fight for survival. That is the difference. "Partially," Jinwoo said. "But there is more. The Hevrock have been the dominant military power for so long that they forgot how to adapt. They have a way of fighting, and it has always worked, so they never changed it. Humans do not have that luxury. On Earth, we fought each other constantly. And when one side developed a new tactic, the other side had to counter it or die. We evolved our warfare constantly. We had to. It was adapt or go extinct." A young Marine entered the bridge. He saluted Jinwoo. "Captain, the Galactic Council is requesting communication with Observer Velthar." Velthar felt his stomach sacs tighten. The Council. They would want his report. Jinwoo nodded to the Marine, then looked at Velthar. "They will ask you what you saw, what you think. You should tell them the truth." "What is the truth?" Velthar asked. "What am I supposed to tell them?" Jinwoo smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was almost sad. "Tell them that humanity wants peace. We want to trade. We want to learn. We want to be part of the galactic community. But tell them also that we will defend ourselves. That we have 10,000 years of military history they know nothing about. That we are very good at violence, even if we prefer not to use it." He paused, looking back at the planet. "Tell them that attacking humanity is the worst mistake any species could make, not because we are cruel, but because we are competent. We do not fight for sport or honor. We fight to win. And we always win. Always." Velthar nodded. He understood. The communication came through. The council chamber appeared on a holographic display. 37 species representatives, the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. They all looked at Velthar expectantly. The council speaker, an elder from the Voth Collective, spoke first. Observer Velthar, you have witnessed the conflict on AR-447. The council requires your report. What are your findings regarding human combat capabilities? Velthar took a deep breath. He had prepared for this moment. He had organized his data, his recordings, his observations. He had written and rewritten his report 12 times. Now he spoke. Honored council members, I was assigned to observe humans in battle. I expected to document a simple suppression action. Instead, I witnessed the complete defeat of the Hevrock Confederation by a vastly outnumbered human force. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. The Hevrock representative, an aged warrior named Krektar, stood. The observer exaggerates. My forces faced unusual circumstances, unfavorable terrain, equipment malfunctions. No, Velthar said firmly. Commander Threxil's forces had every advantage: numbers, position, experience. They lost because they faced an enemy they did not understand, an enemy that fights by different rules. He pulled up his data. Images filled the display, ships exploding, Hevrock formations breaking, casualty numbers. 39 Hevrock warships destroyed, 8,900 ground troops killed. The humans achieved this with 6 frigates and 800 Marines. Human casualties were 37 injured, 0 dead. The council chamber erupted in shocked conversation. The speaker raised his hand for silence. This is difficult to believe. The Hevrock are the finest warriors in the galaxy. How could primitives— They are not primitives, Velthar interrupted. It was against protocol to interrupt the speaker, but he did not care anymore. That is what I came to tell you. Humans are not primitives. They are apex predators from a death world. They have been at war with themselves for 10,000 cycles. They have forgotten more about warfare than we have ever learned. He pulled up more data. Earth history. The wars. The casualties. The technological developments driven by military need. Humans do not fight for honor or glory. They fight to protect their people, and they will use any tactic, any weapon, any strategy to win. They have no warrior codes, no rules of engagement that limit them. They fight to win. Period. The Hevrock representative sat down heavily. He looked old suddenly, defeated. The council speaker was silent for a long moment. Observer Velthar, what is your recommendation? I have 3 recommendations, Velthar said. First, the council should formally apologize to humanity for this unauthorized action. The mining dispute should be resolved in humanity's favor. Second, all pending conflicts with human colonies should be immediately settled through diplomatic means. Third, and most important, under no circumstances should any council species engage in military action against humanity. Ever. You believe they are that dangerous? The speaker asked. I believe they are capable of destroying any military force we could send against them, Velthar said. Not because they are more advanced, but because they are more experienced, more adaptable, more willing to do what is necessary. They have spent their entire evolutionary history learning to kill things that wanted to kill them. They are very, very good at it. He paused, letting that sink in. But I also believe they are not a threat to peaceful species. They want cooperation. They want trade. They want to be our friends. But they will not be intimidated. They will not be bullied. And they will not allow their people to be harmed. A smaller species representative, a Bryn diplomat named Seska, spoke up. What if we simply avoid them? Keep humans at the edge of our territory? That would be a mistake, Velthar said, because humans are also excellent at everything else. They adapt, they innovate, they learn. In 23 cycles, they have gone from one world to dozens. In 100 cycles, they will be everywhere. Better to make them allies now than enemies later. The council discussed, argued, debated. Velthar waited. Finally, the speaker announced the decision. The Council accepts your report. We will issue a formal apology to humanity. The Treaty of AR 447 will be signed, granting human colonies full autonomy in their territories. We will establish formal diplomatic relations and explore trade agreements. The Hevrock representative stood once more. I wish to add something. The Hevrock Confederation formally withdraws all territorial disputes with humanity. We acknowledge that we underestimated them. We will not make that mistake again, and we request that human military advisors be allowed to train with our forces. Perhaps we can learn from them. Velthar felt surprise. The proud Hevrock were asking humans to teach them. It was unprecedented. But perhaps it made sense. If you could not defeat an enemy, learn from them. Become their ally. Grow stronger together. The treaty was signed 3 weeks later. Velthar attended the ceremony. He watched as Administrator Hyun and Captain Jinwoo represented humanity, watched as the Council formally recognized human sovereignty, watched as dozens of species approached humanity with offers of trade, cooperation, and friendship. After the ceremony, Hyun found Velthar. Thank you, Observer. Your report was fair, accurate. It saved lives. I only reported what I saw, Velthar said. You gave us a chance to show the galaxy who we really are, Hyun said. Not monsters, not warmongers, just people who will defend themselves absolutely, but prefer peace. Velthar nodded. I have been assigned as the Council's permanent liaison to humanity. I will be studying your species, your culture, your history. I hope to help the galaxy understand you better. Hyun smiled. Good. We could use more friends like you. 10 cycles later. Velthar published his complete study of human warfare. It became required reading in every military academy in the galaxy. No species had challenged humanity since AR 447. Many had become allies. Velthar taught courses on human combat doctrine at the Diplomatic Academy. His lessons always started the same way. Humans do not want war, but if you give them war, you will not survive to regret it. They have spent 10,000 years learning to kill each other. They brought those lessons to the stars. Your best option is to never find out what they are capable of. Your second best option is to make them your friends. And the galaxy listened. Because the galaxy had seen the recordings, had read the reports, had heard the stories from the few Hevrock survivors. They had learned the lesson that Velthar learned on AR 447. Humanity was not to be feared simply because they were violent. They were to be respected because they had mastered violence so completely that they rarely needed to use it. The galaxy had assigned an observer to watch humans in battle. Instead, they learned why humans were the most dangerous species in known space. Not because they loved war, but because they were too good at it to ever lose.